Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Scott, and today we're going to be painting Mozrog Skragbad. Now, this is a fun model. He rides on the back of the Great White Squig, and he may just be one of the most anticipated models for the Orc releases this year. I know I certainly have been very excited to get a chance to paint him. So let's go ahead and dive into how I painted this model. To start this model off, we're going to go ahead and prime it with Wraithbone Spray Primer from Citadel. And once you put your primer on, we're going to begin with Rakarth Flesh, and we're going to base coat all of the Squig's skin with this color. It's going to give us a good kind of tan, fleshy undertone to all the colors we do after this. And once that's dried, we're going to take Contrast Volupus Pink and we're going to water this down about a 1-to-1 ratio, maybe even slightly more leaning towards the water. Now when we apply this, our goal is to get this on all the recesses and the creases in his skin. Now be careful not to let this pool up on any of the flat surfaces too much, because it's going to ruin the look we're going for. And once that's dried, we're going to begin layering with Pallid Witch Flesh. Now when painting with white like this, you want to make sure you thin it down a lot. You want to go in nice thin coats and you want to evenly distribute the white across the model. This process took me about 3 hours to layer all the skin on the entire squig, because I took my time, and you'll want to do the same thing. Take your time and make sure you do it right and build up the color gradually. Now once that's dried, we're going to begin doing the same thing on the top of the squig using Administratum Grey. We're just going to layer this up. And again, you want to be careful to make sure that any of the recesses don't get filled in. You want to leave that different contrasting tone in all the recesses and any spots that the shade pooled up on. Now we're going to take Reikland Fleshshade and we're going to shade this where the mechanics connect to his body. Now you'll notice I'm using water, and I'm using the water to take the shade and blend it into the flesh so that it doesn't just all of a sudden transition from that white to the tan color. Now we're going to begin working on his spikes. And we're going to use Genestealer Purple, and we're just going to base coat each of the fins or spikes on his back with this color. Just be careful not to get this on the white and gray flesh that is around these spikes. Now once that's dried, we're going to use Seraphim Sepia, and we're going to use this to shade each of those spikes. It's going to give it kind of a slight red tone to the purple that we painted previously. Now once we've allowed that shade to dry, we're going to take Warpfiend Grey. We're going to highlight the edge and the ridges of each spike, as well as put some stripes along the spike. Now we're going to paint the inside of the mouth using Khorne Red. Now it's hard to show this step on camera, just because not a whole lot of light can get inside the mouth of the model. But I'll do my best to try and show you as we go along. Just be careful not to get this on the white skin that's on the lips of the squig. Now we're going to shade the inside of the mouth using Nuln Oil. This is just going to darken it down, and the further back in the mouth you go, the heavier you're going to want to go with your shade. Now we're going to take Abaddon Black. We're going to use this to paint each of the teeth of the squig. Now be careful not to get this on the lips or on the red flesh on the inside of the mouth. But just go through and take your time and carefully pick out each tooth with this black. Now once that's dried, we're going to take Mephiston Red, and we're going to highlight the ridges on the inside of the mouth. Anywhere there's a raised surface, including on the tongue. Now we're going to go through with Cadian Fleshtone. We're going to highlight the tongue. Anywhere that there's a bump on the tongue, a raised surface, we're just going to pick those out with this color. And once that's dried, we're going to use Druchii Violet. We're going to shade the tongue with this color. It's going to turn the tongue somewhat darker than the rest of the mouth, and it's also going to turn all those previous highlights into a kind of purple-pink color. Now while that's drying, we're going to take Administratum Grey, and we're going to edge highlight the tooth. Now you're going to want to focus on the ridges of the tooth, the edges of the tooth, and then you can do a gradual transition from the black up to the gray if you feel like it. Now we're going to begin painting the eyes. Now I previously based the eyes with Khorne Red. Now I'm using Mephiston Red, and I'm just putting a dot on the eyes, being careful not to go all the way up to the edge. Now I'm going through with Evil Sun Scarlet, and I'm doing an even smaller dot towards the front of the eye, not going all the way back to the previous layer of red. Finally, we're using Wild Rider Red. We're putting just a C-shaped curve at the very front of the eye. Now with the eyes done, we're going to move on to the leather parts. We're using Rhinox Hide as the base coat for this color. And just be careful not to get it on the skin because it's going to take you a while to layer that color back up. Once that's dried, we're going to take Agrax Earthshade and we're going to shade this all over the leather areas of the squig. Once that shade has dried, we're going to use Mournfang Brown and we're going to dry brush this on all the leather. This is going to catch the edges and it's going to make the leather look a little bit more worn and discolored. Then we're going to use Baneblade Brown. We're going to highlight all the edges on the leather, including the stitches and any details that we really want to highlight or pop out on the leather. Now we're going to begin working on the mechanical parts of the squig, and we're going to use Leadbelcher as the base for this. Now you may notice that the skin of the orc has been painted in the background. If you'd like to know how I did that, go ahead and check out my other video, How to Paint Orc Skin. Now we're going to take Balthasar Gold, and we're going to put this on just the armor panel down at the base of his foot, as well as the pipes coming out the side of the squig. Now you want to look at the box art and figure out if there are any other spots that use this Balthasar Gold. Once we've done that, we're going to take Agrax Earthshade, and we're going to shade all of the mechanical parts of the squig. And go ahead and go as heavy or as light as you'd like on this. It'll just change how dark your metal is. Once that's dried, we're going to take Stormhost Silver and we're going to just highlight some of the tubes that are between the different joints of the squig. And once again, check your box art to figure out where this color goes on the model, because there are a couple spots. Now we're going to dry brush all of the silver parts using Necron Compound. Now I chose not to go very heavy on this because I wanted the metal to appear darker. So if you look at the box art, they have a very dark, almost black look to the metal. But if you wanted to, you could make this much brighter. Now we're going to use Sycorax Bronze, and we're going to edge highlight all of the copper areas. And when we get up here to the smokestacks, we're going to go even heavier on this. It's going to be more of a layer rather than an edge highlight. Now we're going to start working on the orc himself. We're going to use Baneblade Brown to paint his pants. Now just be careful not to get this on his skin or on the boots, because we're going to paint the boots with a different color later on. Now we're going to take Mournfang Brown, and you're going to just paint all of the leather straps, the belt, and any other leather spots that we want to be brown on this model. Once that's done, we're going to take Agrax Earthshade, and we're going to shade the pants and any of the leather straps that we just painted with the Mournfang Brown. Now we're going to paint his boots using Abaddon Black. Just be careful, once again, not to get this on other parts of the model. Go ahead and do a nice, even, smooth coat. Now, while we're doing this, we're also going to do the tattoos on the orc. Now, to do this, you just want to kind of look at the box art and try to mimic the shapes that are on the tattoos. Now, I found that by the end of this tattoo, it was easier, anywhere there was going to be a straight line, just to paint a straight line and then build all the shapes off of that line. Use a nice fine tip brush at this point and take your time because it's not going to look good if you go fast. Now once that's done, we're going to take Dark Reaper, and we're going to use this as an edge highlight on his boots. This is a really dark blue color, just barely enough to make it look like the light is catching on these boots. Now I went for a clean appearance on the boots, so this is the only edge highlight I use. Now we're going to begin working on the armor panels of the model. We're going to use Wraithbone to paint all of the white panels. Once the Wraithbone is dried, we're going to use Agrax Earthshade to dirty up the panels. Now similar to what we did on the Squig Flesh before, we'll just put the shade in a couple spots and then we're going to use water to spread it out so that it transitions from the dirty areas to the clean areas. Now while that's drying, we're going to take Averland Sunset and we're going to paint all of the yellow armor panels and symbols that are on this orc. Once we've done that, we're going to shade the yellow using Seraphim Sepia. Now, this is a somewhat orange-tan shade, and it's going to darken down the yellow, but it's also going to give it a somewhat orange color to it. And once that shade is dried, we're going to edge highlight this using Yriel Yellow. Now just be careful to only get this on the edges. If you want to make it look a little bit dirtier, you can put some streaks going into the panel itself, but I just focused on the edges. Now we're going to take Khorne Red, and we're going to use this to edge highlight the horns, which we previously based with Abaddon Black. We're also going to use this red to pick out a few of the straps and the details across his mechanical arm. We're also going to do the details and symbols on his white armor panels. Now once we've done that, we're going to use Nuln Oil to shade all of the red we've just painted. This is going to darken it down, and it's also going to make it look somewhat dusty. Once that shade is dried, we're going to use Cadian Fleshtone. We're just going to pick out the most raised edges on any of the spots that we painted with the red. This includes the spikes or horns. It also includes the straps and any of the symbols that we've painted on this model. Now, we're going to take Abaddon Black, and we're going to use this to create a guideline for where the stripes are going to be on this yellow tube. Now, once we've got the guideline, we're going to go through and thicken it up until we've got a pretty even thickness for both the yellow stripes and the black stripes. Now, for our final detail, we're going to use Lead Belcher, and we're just going to go pick out all the rivets, any spots where we overpainted on the mechanical regions, and any additional details, such as earrings or hooks on the model that we want done up in silver. And with that, we've finished up this model. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and like it, and then subscribe to my channel so you can see future videos. And then let me know in the comments what you'd like to see in future videos. Maybe there's a specific painting technique or a model that you'd like to see painted. Let me know, and we'll see what I can do. See you next time, and have a great day.